It also lists Intel Corp with 9.9 million shares, Cisco Systems at 20.5 million shares, Microsoft Corporation at 15.7 million shares, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals Incorporated at 18.6 million shares, ExxonMobil Corporation at 10 million shares, Walmart Stores at 12.8 million shares, Oracle Corporation at 8.6 million shares, Nortel Networks Corporation at 9.2 million shares, and Vodafone AirTouch at 147.8 million shares. And these are just the largest of the stock holdings within CalSTRS. Walter Burian of CalForOne.com has estimated that government ownership of just Microsoft Corporation stock is at approximately 83%, with the 5 boroughs of New York City proper owning collectively about 5% of that company. This means that everything that you do on your computer and everything that is included in your end-user agreement belongs to the government. And the government is the one regulating the internet. It's also the one regulating advertising, usury, and fraud laws. The conflicts of interest here are astounding. Because remember, the Central Intelligence Agency and the National Security Agency are private government offices with access to everything that you do on the internet and through Microsoft. And Apple computers are also government owned. Now, understanding that, we go to page 46, where CalSTRS actually devoted a paragraph to corporate governance. Now, if you still don't comprehend what a proxy vote means, this is an admission of guilt. It states, during the 1999-2000 fiscal year, CalSTRS voted on a variety of proxy issues including financial, corporate governance, and social issues. There were 7,192 votes cast on proxy issues of corporations whose shares were owned in the investment portfolio. These proxy issues were presented on 2,789 companies. The overall number of proxy issues increased from 6,588 last year, but the number of mergers and acquisitions reviewed remained constant, at a little more than 10%. Merger activity, both within United States borders and across the borders, continued its steady course, especially in those transactions where stock is the compensation received by the acquired company's holders. This reflects the continued appreciation in the stock market both at home and abroad. So this government corporation, one of over 185,000 within the United States, just told us that it voted on a variety of proxy issues including financial, corporate governance, and social issues, with 7,192 votes cast on proxy issues of corporations whose shares were owned in their investment portfolio. In other words, CalSTRS is acting as a major shareholder, voting as partial owners of these corporations on issues that dictate the future success of those corporations. This is corporate governance, in the words of the United States government. This is perhaps the most important, revealing paragraph you will ever read in your lifetime. This is fascism. Then, on page 47, CalSTRS states that by proxy, the major issues voted on are summarized below. And once again, this is criminal activity. And by this point, surely you realize the Constitution is out the window. Number 1, election of directors. CalSTRS generally votes in favor of directors unless the proxy statement shows circumstances contrary to policy. The selection of auditors and accountants. CalSTRS generally votes in favor on the independent auditors and accountants recommended by management. And for its employees, under compensation plans, stock options, incentive stock options, employee stock purchase plans, etc. Corporations provide a variety of compensation plans to keep executives, employees, and non-employee directors. A number of these plans provide for the issuance of long-term incentives to attract, reward, and retain key employees, the best of the criminals, and other miscellaneous management. CalSTRS generally votes in favor of other miscellaneous business recommended by management, but issues are decided on a case-by-case basis. Now, the word management here, when it's recommended by management, simply means that the government, as a collective whole, wants CalSTRS to vote a certain way with regards to its ownership stock holdings in these corporations. Also, in voting to approve merger acquisition management, CalSTRS generally votes in favor of the acquisition or merger of one company into another. This means that the pension fund for California state teachers has a say in whether the companies it owns stock in can merge with one another. Number 5 is corporate actions and corporate governance issues. These are issues related to mergers, acquisitions, stock issuance, stock splits, and incorporation. CalSTRS generally votes in favor of these proposals unless there is a compelling reason not to cast a positive vote. Once again, CalSTRS is deciding on mergers, acquisitions, stock issuance, in other words, who gets the stock, and stock splits, which can only serve to benefit CalSTRS. The government is the corporations. The corporations are the government. There is no fine line. That line has been erased. Erased just like our borders and just like our Constitution. Back to page 45, under real estate, it states that over the last fiscal year, CalSTRS' portfolio of real estate assets reached $3.8 billion. 82 directly owned properties and 3 privately owned partnerships represented this dollar amount. Real estate represents nearly 3% of the total portfolio. The direct property portfolio is diversified as a property type and geographic location. The largest component of the direct property sector is office. As is true last year, the largest weighting is in the western region of the United States. The CalSTRS real estate portfolio has achieved annual returns of 9, 17, and 14% for the 1, 3, and 5-year periods, respectively. And remember, all of this is happening tax-free. These corporations are exempt from any taxes. On page 46, we have Chart F, which is the investment summary for the year ended June 30th, 2000, again in millions, which shows the net assets and investments. Now, Chart G shows the schedule of fees for July 1, 1999 through June 30th of 2000, and it's listed in thousands. So we can see here where a lot of this profit is going. For just the domestic equity holdings, stock and everything else, CalSTRS is paying $10,261,000 to its equity managers. For international equities, it's paying $31,673,000 to managers. Alternative investments, $1 million, and real estate, $12.8 million, for total investment managers' fees of $55 million. This is ridiculous. $55.94 million in fees. This is corruption at its finest, aged for a very long time until perfectly corrupt. Here's Chart H listing broker commissions. For the 1-year period ending June 30th, 2000, just for domestic commissions for the brokers that handle these equities, CalSTRS is paying $4.8 million just for domestic equities. For international commissions, it's paying almost $11 million. If only this money were being used to benefit the public, or at least the school employees of California. Now, when it comes down to determining the bottom line on what these pension funds will pay out to their members, it is an exact science. This sounds more like we're talking about cattle than people. Between the contributions from its members and the rate of return from just those contributions when invested in the markets, the full amount of money paid to beneficiaries of the CalSTRS pension fund are completely paid. So all of the other net assets held in trust for pension benefits, which in 2000 equated to $112,781,688,000, can be used for something other than paying school employees. In other words, everything that this fund does from the year 2000 on is pure speculation and profit, because the amount of money that is being put into this pension fund by school employees who are mandated by law to contribute to this fund is enough money to pay all retirement benefits for qualified and retired California state teachers. Now just imagine if these people who are working with these funds, investing in and controlling the market, were actually using that money for the good of the taxpayers, for the good of the economy, and to the benefit of humanity. This is exactly what Walter Burien of CAFR1.com would like to see happen. His life dream is simply to see this rightfully taxpayer money be put to use to benefit the taxpayers of America. His tax retirement funds would reacquire this massive store of wealth, get rid of the corruption controlling it through complete transparency, and use that money for the benefit of the people, the states, and the country. Imagine a government actually funding alternative energy solutions that aren't from corporations. Imagine alleviating all federal, state, and local taxes simply by using this government store of investment income to pay all of the taxes that we are forced to pay by law. Imagine freedom without eminent domain and other federal tyrannies to get in the way of true land and home ownership. Imagine a government that actually rewards its legislators for fiscal responsibility instead of theft by deception and usury, for saving money instead of forcibly spending and wasting it to ensure larger budgets for the next quarter. Imagine a work environment where honesty and integrity are the most sought-after qualities for employees, where lying, cheating, and stealing are not rewarded, but instead looked down upon. Imagine actually trusting your politicians without doubt, simply because everything they do is scrutinized and transparent by law, and they know they will lose their position of authority the second they cheat, lie, or steal. Imagine having a recourse against police brutality, this most violent street gang in America, and actually hiring good and honest, constitutionally minded men and women to protect and serve the people against government and corporate tyranny, not to protect the crimes, taxes, and fines imposed by corporations and municipalities. And then imagine bringing judges, lawyers, attorneys, and politicians to justice by grand jury indictments for criminal behavior in an official capacity.